I'll decide what to name this episode after I'm done recording, but it's going to be something like rigidity or inflexibility. And no, I'm not talking about literal inflexibility, as in you can't stretch properly, although that might be a future episode. I'm talking about the inability to adapt. And this is in regards to exercise or weight loss or whatever it is. This is kind of a of perfectionism where it's an all or nothing approach. Any deviation is like a cause for alarm. It's panic. It's everything's falling apart. It's not accounting for real life. And I'm someone who suffered from this a lot as recently as last year. And even way, way, way before that. I remember in college, about, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, I lived close to my college and I was a commuter. So I was able to just go over there and use the gym basically anytime, even though I didn't live on campus. That was great. I was so disciplined as well. I went to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday without fail. Unless, of course, the gym was closed and they didn't tell commuters because fuck commuters. That was more common than you think, actually. But it was great. I had the discipline down. I was going no matter what. But I regret that. I don't regret the discipline I had, but I regret following it to that degree. I was too rigid. I was not flexible enough with my goals. And what happened was I missed out on going to have fun a lot. There were many, many times throughout the summer where my dad was like, "Hey, let's go to Six Flags today." I'm like, on Wednesday, I go to the gym. I can't go. I'm not going. I mean, part of that was I was still like kind of fat, or pretty fat, and I didn't want to go to Hurricane Harbor and take my shirt off because I was fucking fat. I'd rather work towards, shaping myself into something better. But that was fucking stupid. I could have just gone to the gym on Thursday, on Tuesday, on fucking Saturday. I missed out on going to Six Flags probably like I want to say like 15 times because of this habit I had of not being flexible, sticking to my guns way, way, way too much to the point of detriment. Now, being disciplined and having a strict habit can be really good, but not being able to adjust due to real life is not good. By the way, if you're listening and you have no idea what Six Flags is for some reason, it's a very popular amusement park with a nearby or attached water park called Hurricane Harbor. I can't be assuming people know what the hell I'm talking about. Now, moving on to other people besides myself, a lot of people deal with this in terms of their diet. They're very rigid with it. Again, I'm going to shit on carnivore diet. They're like, oh, I can only eat meat and butter or whatever the hell it is. And that's how it is. They're not open to any kind of change, not open to any kind of adaptability. You're just going to stick to it no matter what. Again, having this discipline can be really, 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 really helpful. But real life calls for flexibility often. So if you're on the carnivore diet and you're eating at a Middle Eastern place and they ran out of meat for some reason, eat the fucking falafels. It's fine. You need to be able to make that adjustment. You could be missing out on some great stuff. Like for myself, for my day job, I work in IT at a university. Guess what colleges have on campus? They have gyms. Sometimes they have pools. Now, I have a hybrid schedule, so I go into the office sometimes. And since they have an indoor track as well, I'm thinking, oh man, I need to use that track every time I go in. Because if I'm only going in once per week, that'd be a great way to get cardio, run around the track, right? I was very strict about that for about a year, which is cool. I forced myself to run for a year and not on a treadmill. So awesome, right? Not awesome because they had a pool and I wanted to swim in it, but I didn't have time to, middle of the day, go to the gym, work out a bit, run, and then go eat, and then go back to the, to the office, to my cubicle. I didn't have time to do all that shit and go swim in the pool. So I just didn't do it. Over 2 years working at that place and I didn't really use the pool. That's fucking stupid. So a few months ago, I became more open, switching up my cardio. Like, yeah, running is cool, it's helpful, but you know what? Cardio is cardio. Swimming is cool. I don't have a pool at home, so let's try this out. So I switched my running to swimming. And it's been fucking great. When I go to work, I get to use the pool, I get to use the sauna because I open myself up to not being so fucking rigid. I also have the flexibility to, choose to run certain times instead of swim. I don't often like to do that because swimming is way, way, way more fun than running, but I can if I want to. I have that flexibility now. I was suffering from rigidity for quite a while and I was missing out on using a fucking pool indoor, heated, because I was so rigid with my fitness schedule at that time that I just neglected to even try that stuff out. Imagine missing out on swimming in a pool literally just because, well, I've been doing this and I don't want to stop doing this. How silly. Even more recently, this was the case. My workout schedule was Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, which yes, leaves Friday, Saturday, and Sunday without exercise, which is a bit long, but that's mostly a problem for other people because that's not like an asshole. But my discipline makes it so I can work out like 3 days in a row and just not work out the other 4 days and I'll be fine. I'm not gonna fuck up my habits. Now, ideally, if you can work out 3 days in a row, full body like I do, you're probably not doing it, in a way that's challenging enough. But what I'm saying in general is I'm okay to have the bigger breaks. I wouldn't recommend that to others when you're just starting out. That's gonna fuck up your consistency and the recovery timing. But I'm being honest on here. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday would be kind of like a cardio-ish day or an easier day. For example, working out a bit, running or swimming. And that's how it was for basically 2 years. And I planned that around my office schedule, right? But then my office schedule has recently changed because of boomers and return to office bullshit, blah, 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 right? So instead of panicking and making myself suffer a bit by trying to stick to this, even though it wouldn't work as well as before, I became flexible. I changed my workout schedule. Now it's Tuesday and Wednesday, the days I go in. And then Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I just choose whatever as the other workout day. Yes, not only was I flexible enough to change my workout schedule, I was flexible enough to build in flexibility into the schedule itself. And you know what? It's fine. I used to also do this with the time of day. For a very long time, I would just not eat until I exercised. And whether, I would exercise at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m., whatever, I can only eat afterwards because I liked exercising fasted because when I was on track in high school, I was a fat kid on track. And if I ate at a certain time and I would run, I'd feel like, oh man, I gotta stop running. I feel horrible. It's like I feel all the food inside me, right? Now, it's not the case these days. I can eat and then go work out an hour or two later and be totally fine. But for a long period of time, I just didn't allow that because that's just how I was doing it. But also fairly recently, I'm like, oh yeah, I can just eat a bit in the morning if I want to and just be totally fine when I go to exercise. I'm not going to feel bloated or heavy or whatever. A lot of this rigidity comes from being an adult, essentially, because I'm realizing now that becoming more flexible is kind of like becoming more childish in a way. When you were a kid, you would just roll with the punches a bit more. If you were to go to recess, the certain parts of the playground weren't available, certain toys weren't available. It's like, whatever, you would just do something else, right? Same for this situation. I can't eat at this time, whatever, it's fine. Or if I can only eat at this time, fine, whatever. I can just make the time that I go exercise a bit different. It's a skill to be able to say, whatever, I'll deal with it. A skill I highly recommend developing. This messes with a lot of people, especially adults, like I'm saying. Children are a lot more flexible than adults. I mean this physically and in terms of their habits. A lot of adults, they're kind of set in their ways, especially as they get older. And it works to their detriment because a lot of their ways are not great. Sometimes they're inefficient to begin with, but over time, they can become obsolete. Maybe the best way of doing this habit just doesn't work anymore. And you have to be open to evolving and changing. But if you're not open to that, you're just fucking yourself over for no reason. Stagnation is death. Remember that. And for some people, this goes even deeper. It goes mental. Some people literally don't want to lose weight because in their mind, they're inflexible with their identity. They're thinking, I'm the fat guy. I don't want to lose weight. That's weird. I won't be me anymore. I'm the chubby guy. I'm the fat guy. The guy who's going to die at 55 due to a heart attack. That's them. They don't want to change. They're not open to it. In fact, there was actually one point in time where this was me. I remember in high school, I was, at my fattest, 244. That's in pounds. If you're European or something, that was 111 kilograms. I remember thinking at one point, you know what? I'm just going to be the fat guy. This is just who I am. I'm very overweight. Losing weight seems tough. This is just me now. I'm just going to stay fat. That's me. It took my friend telling me that he lost about 90 pounds to break me out of that mindset. Thankfully, mentally, I was open to that kind of information, that kind of change. I knew, hey, it was possible for this normal guy to lose weight. That means I can do it too. You know what? I kind of want to do it. So I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to be a guy who is losing weight instead of the fat guy. And I'm glad I did. So I was able to move on, become fit, and help out a lot of other people lose weight too. So that's great. But if I wasn't open, if I was inflexible, if I was rigid in the mind, I would have stayed fat. I wouldn't have been open to it. And then ironically enough, my body would evolve over time into a much fatter, much more unhealthy form. Anyway, enough about me for now. Let's get into some numbers. In a study at Google, employees with very rigid exercise schedules were 10% less likely to actually visit the gym at least once a week after the incentives ended, compared to a 5% decline for people with flexible schedules. So the moral of that little story is that most people just give up in general, but if you're more flexible, you're less likely to give up because you're less likely to run into these seemingly insurmountable roadblocks in your progress. If you think, oh, there's an obstacle, I can maneuver around it, then you're more likely to stick with the overall goal because you know that you can adapt to the obstacles. If you're not open to that, you will probably just stop. Research shows that individuals adopting flexible dieting strategies have a stronger correlation with the absence of overeating, and that's interesting. My take on this is if you are open to changing up the way you eat, when you eat, all this kind of stuff, you're more focused on the overall end goal, as in maybe losing 20 pounds or something like that. There are many ways to do that. I mean, there's only one way, eating at a caloric deficit, but how that looks in your day-to-day life, there are many ways to achieve that. For example, you can eat one huge meal throughout the day. You can eat a lot of small meals throughout the day. You can eat in the morning and wait a long time, eat at night. You can intermittent fast, just eat 3 square meals a day, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of ways to get there. Now, if you're really rigid with that kind of eating schedule or what you're eating, if things don't go the way that you expect, you might panic, maybe you overeat, maybe you binge one time to make up for something, whatever it is. But if you have your eyes on the prize of weight loss, a lot of different ways to get there. So you're not going to panic. At 2 years in this study, flexible restraint was one of the strongest predictors of weight loss maintenance. Basically saying if you can deal with what life throws at you, you'll always be able to maintain or even lose your weight. If you're unable to deal with what life throws your way, you're going to fucking struggle. You're going to panic. So how do you deal with rigidity and flexibility? I still don't know what the hell I'm going to call this episode. Maybe I'll do a / title. Who knows? Anyway, how do you deal with this? Well, become more flexible. That's it, basically. Have a plan B. Have a plan C. Have a plan D. Try that out. You can argue those are forms of rigidity in a way, because if you don't do this, you're definitely gonna do this or whatever. But if you have multiple plans or at least ideas of how to get where you want to get to, you'll be more flexible. Don't just follow one approach to getting somewhere. If you want to be fit, don't just say, okay, I need to, Monday pushing exercises, Wednesday pulling, Friday legs. No. Be open. Monday full body, Wednesday cardio, Friday full body again, whatever. Be open to changing up the days of the week. Be open to what kind of cardio you do. Maybe you want to stick a jump rope in your gym bag. It gives you the option to do that at any point. You can do cardio every day a little bit. That way, if your timing changes due to real life, then you can adjust. But if your schedule is, I'm going to be super rigid Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this, you can't do it, then it's like, oh shit. Well, I guess the plan for this week is ruined, or I just didn't get to do this day because I couldn't do my rigid workout. I couldn't do 10 fucking bicep exercises because I'm stupid. So I guess I just won't work out today. Have multiple backup plans and have different ways to get to the goal. Focus on the goal. This is a big part of Ender's Game, the book. Um, I don't know why, but I'm going to get into this a little bit. This very popular sci-fi book called Ender's Game about child soldiers. And the main character, Ender, he is leading, he has a team, he has a platoon that he puts into sub platoons of like 4 platoons of 5 people or 5 platoons of 4 people, whatever it is. Now, the other teams, they were very rigid. This is such a fucking tangent. The other teams were very rigid. They had strict orders, they had strict plays, game plans, very specific tactics that they would act out. So when things didn't go according to their plan, they were fucked. Ender, on the other hand, did not do that. With all his little platoon, sub-platoon leaders, he would say, this is the goal you have to achieve. Think in terms of the goal. Whatever you got to do with your guys to get there, that's what's going to work. So just do that. I trust you. This gave them the freedom to adapt quite a lot in their combat scenarios. You know, I live in Chicago, so there's sirens every day. There was a full-ass minute of a siren blasting just now. Now, if I were a really rigid person, I would just end the recording and start over again, right? But no, I'm open. I'm flexible. I've learned how to edit, so I'm good. Now, going back to Ender and his platoons. They had a lot of success with that strategy, and that's what I implore you to try out. Think about the end goal, the way that you get there. Be open to changing, evolving, adjusting, adapting. Don't just say, this is the game plan, this is it. If I go off the rails, I don't know what I'm going to do. You're going to fail if that happens. Anyway, as I've said, I've missed out on not going to Six Flags, not using a pool for a long time because I was just like, oh, I need to exercise this way at this time because I was fucking stupid. Let me know in the comments, what have you missed out on because of your inflexibility, your inability to change? I'm really curious. And I really hope you make it. See you next time.